Yeah.
We did it twice.
Oh my God,
No. Yeah, so this is 400.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know about. That's
Okay, right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Senate. Thank you for bearing with us during those technical difficulties which are bound to happen at some times here. So thank you for your patience. We are going to do introductions now, names, positions, and pronouns. And the question today is, what's your favorite emoji? What emoji describes you best? So I'll start. My name is Clete Lopez Dubon, and I'm the ASUO Senate President, a member of the Department's Finance Committee. And pronouns. And I really like using like the face palm emoji. Yeah. We'll go Peters next.
I'm he. My name is Marisol Peters. I use she, her pronouns. I am in the PFC Senate seat 2, and my favorite emoji is the little pencil moving the
So I think I have my record open PFCC 3 and emoji that describes me or describes my hair. It's like the one that's like thinking with the I can say nothing, so maybe
that describes who it is. It's a standing emoji because it's really important.
Which is quite. I'm North Potter, Senate seat 6, CSC, and Senate ombudsperson. And the emoji that describes you the best is the eye emoji, because anytime like there's tea or something, I'm just like, ooh.
Jordan Ackmans, EHAM CFC 07, chairman of CFC. This, I'm not sure if it describes me, but the emoji that I use quite often is the like hang loose emoji.
My favorite emoji to use is the one that's like straight face but with the eyebrow. It's like I love that one.
Hi, my name is Jess Fisher. I use she, them pronouns. Senate seat 11 in Arts and Science underground quad. I think the emoji I use the most is like the crying emoji because it's just like really good for like a bunch of different situations. Like if something is funny, or if something is sad, or if something is happy. Rachel Withers, I use she, her pronouns. I'm active seat 12, and I think an emoji that describes me is the guy in the purple suit.
Hello, my name is Ruth Ramirez Panetta. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Senate 13. And if I were to use, or like, what emoji I use the most, and I think describes me, is the fire emoji. It is my absolute favorite emoji. I do use it ironically, so please know that if I respond with the fire emoji, it's very ironic.
Supervisor Rodgers, Senate seat 14. My favorite emoji is the shaking my head emoji. Please come.
Hi everyone, my name is Bella Esbeck. I use she, her pronouns, Senate seat 16 and academic chair. And my favorite emoji is the like orange orangutan. It's just like a really big monkey and it's so cute and I love him. Okay, that's it. Hi everyone, so Squirrels at seat 18, Children's Bank Communication. I use she, her pronouns.
My favorite emoji is a star. I know she's like really happy. I do use it all the time.
David Hill, Tennessee Business School, and my favorite emoji is gotta be the salute.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I was so happy,
Hi, my name is Erin Wiedemann. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Senate seat 20. Friends as well. And I use this emoji all the time. I don't know why, it's just like dress, you know?
We can do the charm.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Emily Cole. I use she, they pronouns. I am Senate seat 23. An emoji I use a lot is the little redhead fairy, because I am actually a redhead and I don't always have pink hair.
Hi, the clerks. I'd say my favorite emoji is the cat kissing. I usually do pronouns and also many the clerks say. And I would say kind of the like hands that make like the little heart.
Okay, I was saying, it's just Senator Wood.
Hi, sorry, the microphone was cutting out. I believe you were calling me, but I wasn't quite sure. Hi, my name is Joanne Wu. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm Senator 15. I apologize, I have to show up through Zoom for the rest of the term, but here I am. The answer to the question for me, there is a moon emoji with the eyes looking like to the right. And I do also use it very unironically. It looks like it's up to some mischievous madness, but I just use it as a joke, and I think that resembles me sometimes.
Thanks, Joanne. Ducharme?
Hi, I'm Andrew Ducharme, Senate seat 23, representing graduate students in the College of Arts and Sciences and in the College of Design. I use he, him pronouns, and I think the emoji that describes me, and also one that I use quite a lot, would be the smiling emoji, but with the bead of sweat in the top right corner.
Great, thanks, Andrew. My mic is like disproportionately loud than all of the other ones, so I appreciate the patience. Okay, great. We will go now to Annabelle. We have anything with Phil? I said one. I don't know what it is, but I said. Oh, the Facebook one. Oh, yeah. Okay, anyway, Phil, you again? Am I ready?
The University of Oregon is located on Calapooya, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Calapooya people. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Calapooya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. Today, Calapooya descendants are primarily citizens of Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and they continue to make important contributions to their communities, to the lands known as Oregon, and to the world. In following the Indigenous Protocol of acknowledging the original people of the land we occupy, we also extend our respect to the 9 federally recognized Indigenous nations of Oregon: the Burns Paiute Tribe, the Confederate Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, the Siuslaw Indians, the Confederate Tribes of the Grand Ronde, the Confederate Tribes of Siletz Indians, the Confederate Tribes of Umatilla Indian Reservation, the Confederate Tribes of Warm Springs, the Coco Indian Tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua, Tribe of Indians, and the Klamath Tribes. We express our respect to the many more tribes who have ancestral connections to this territory, including the Chinook Indian Nation and the 4 McDermott, Ayuk, and Shoshone tribes, as well as to all other displaced indigenous peoples who call Oregon home.
Move to approve the agenda. Second, sir.
Motion made by Ludovic, second Squirrel, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Other? Great. And before we continue, my apologies, ASUO Vice President Kikuchi Paku is on Zoom if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, this is ASUO VP Kiki. I would say emoji that describes me is the nerd emoji with the glasses, and I use she, her pronouns. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Kiki. Okay, we will get on to the rest of the agenda. Do we have anyone here for an announcement? We'll get Lumen and then Sophia. And then Bishop.
Hi, this is just a quick announcement for senators. I recently reached out to X about how we can, she's the director of comms for exec, about how we can further inform students about like Senate activities aside from just like all the fun events that we get to do. So we're going to create kind of a group of people in the Senate that can update her like weekly or bi-weekly on things like our advocacy programs or like resolutions that will then either be like a newsletter or some sort of like highlight, a workshop that so people can know more about what Senate does. So if anyone is interested, you can teams me and we can make up a group chat. Whatever wants to join. Thank you.
Thanks. Sophia, you want to come on up?
Three, I think. I don't know, was not at the last week's meeting. I apologize. I was in the wrong Zoom link, so that is my bad. But I need to thanks for some of the work that Asperg has been doing over the past couple of weeks. Just a reminder, Asperg is your guys' and the campuses really public interest advocacy group, right? Statewide advocacy organization that advocates on the interests of students and citizens in places where decisions are being made. Right, so there's a lot of different issues out there that students identified over 50 years ago, and within the past 50 years, there are issues that are going to them for the rest of their lives, and they want people in the places where decisions are being made, advocating on their interests, but then they also want to learn how to advocate on those interests themselves. So that's why Asperg works with professional staff, works with students, works with advocates all across the state to represent those interests and make sure that we are advancing the public interest in places where decisions are being made. So from some of our programs on campus in the state of Oregon recently, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, yesterday was the last day of registered to vote in Oregon. It's such an early deadline in comparison to the timeline of school starting on the quarter system out here. That being said, we probably the youth voice is just super underrepresented in our democracy, right? This generation is the largest and most diverse group of potential voters in the country, and yet they're not being able to the polls and have numbers, which means that our elected officials are really waking up in the day and thinking, how are we going to work on issues that many people care about? And so look at script flip that paradigm and the way that we're going to be able to do that is by making sure that students are educated, registered, and ready to turn out to the polls. This is the every election. And so this picture that at the end of the work that we're striving for, we want to see 100% youth voter participation in college campuses all across the country, right? College students are the future of our democracy, and we're really pretty strong cornerstone out of it. And so we want that to be reflected in each of our elections. But in the short term, we're going to continue to move the needle, continue to get more and more students registered to vote on campuses and get them turned out. And to date, we've done a lot of work on that here. Thank you for the U of O. Just think you have to go to 3,000 students on campus of the registration deadline and then get their voter registration updated. And then we registered over 200 students and counting to those. Not only students have the work that ASUO as an organization has been doing as well. So between us, you guys and all of the groups on campus that are registering voters, we've done a really good job of making the most out of these first 2 weeks of classes and getting people to be interact with us this fall, which is really exciting. And it's been very longer making that happen. And we know that for the 3 weeks leading up to the election, the best thing that we could be doing is helping these students and get them to turn out. And every year there are national studies that are done by this university that analyze the registration and engagement rates. And historically, the trend has been at the University of Maryland that students register for the low national average, but then they turn out to the polls at rates way above the national average. So we know we get students registered to vote, they're significantly more likely to turn out to the poll this weekend than anywhere else. Hi, Priscilla. So the best thing we can be doing over the next 3 weeks is just contacting as many students as possible and getting them ready to turn out to the polls. And so we're going to do a lot of people to make that happen. Tonight is a big pickup meeting that Priscilla just won, and I'm assuming just presented on her campaign. Yes. But we I don't know stage, but how many people are there? It's pretty packed. Okay, so I wanted to take the pictures and email that to y'all. And there are some students on campus, over 700 to date, that have been interested in getting involved in this kind of work and in our campaign. So we've been calling them, texting them, emailing them, giving them opportunities to take action on some of these campaigns and learn how to advocate for issues that matter. And when you see how many updates, I'm using for a long time to show that it's been but in front of you is the project packet for Gun campaigns in Oregon this year, working to protect the oceans and bring sea ice back to the very first. Thank you. You guys will also take a look at the some of the questions that are tackling specific strategy for making that happen. Just broad strokes around the oceans and the pretty significant threat right now from the impacts of climate change to habitat loss to biodiversity loss. And the big problem on the Oregon coast in particular is that there are no sea otters on the coast. They were hunted to extinction over 100 years ago during fur trade. And this has negative impacts on our coastal environments. Sea otters like to eat these things called purple sea urchins, and so without the otters there to keep the urchin populations in check, they've been completely decimating the underwater kelp forests. And our kelp forests are like the part of what makes our oceans one of the largest carbon sinks in the world. So we know that to protect species that live in our oceans and to protect our oceans and carbon sinks as a whole, we need to keep the ocean populations in check, protect the ocean, and the best way to do that is bring sea otters back to the coast. And so strategically thinking about the campaign, part of it is the U.S. Department of Fish and Wildlife, but in particular, the decision making on this campaign is the director of the field office out in New York. And it's an issue that's been talked about a lot on the coast right now, but in conversations with the Newport field office, the thing that's been missing is that they actually see it as something that the millions across the state care about. They think it's this like really niche issue that people are really talking about on the coast. So what we're looking to do is build up people support that's needed amongst young people and students to build the support that's necessary for them to identify that this is a statewide issue, not just an issue that they're seeing in their backyard. And so this is what they're organizing online this year. They're hosting a big statewide OSIC summit here in November on the campus at the University of Oregon. More information about to come will be on Saturday, November 16th. Will be funding support and signatures from thousands of students on the campus that will be delivering to the department. And we'll be doing a lot of public education work through the media and social media and building visibility on campus to make that happen. bunch of other big activities for the year. We send our food newsletter in the evenings with chocolate activities. But we are launching our food waste coalition with Representative or Champion Senator Muir in the Oregon legislature. That first meeting is next Tuesday, October 24th. And I'm seeing the conference in white faces back, and so a lot of you guys doing. Our first coalition meeting working to tackle that will be next Tuesday. So if any of you guys are interested in getting involved in some of that work, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'll ask you to the calendar invite for that. And we've got some good legislative priorities happening this year in 2025 on the food waste program. And so anyone that's interested in learning more and getting involved, reach out to me and connect with us. Because and there's some stickers and there's the thing report and there's project packets that will be passed around. And then definitely bring that in the we get into that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Okay, I have to go with me. Okay. Who's Fisher?
Hi guys. Yeah, I'm here to talk about another working group that we're trying to get formed. I was recently reached out to by Mohammed, who is one of the directors of the Muslim Student Association on campus. And this is to form a working group for a permanent SWANA cultural center. SWANA stands for South, Southwest Asian, and North African. So currently students at UO who identify with the SWANA region don't have like an official like academic space to hold meetings or talks or congregate. And so yeah, this would just be part of the deal that was reached last year at the end of like the encampment was a temporary space for students. And so yeah, a lot of students who identify with this region are often invisibilized and lack structural support. And also with the tumultuous events of the past year and the war, this is just something that we were promised. And while a temporary space is helpful, the request is for like a permanent like on-campus place. And this is especially with the timing of this, another part of that agreement is that in winter term, there are going to be 5 displaced Palestinian students from Gaza who will be coming to UO on scholarships for the next 4 years. So just like letting them have a place to exist. So yeah, I'd like to move to form a working group to write a resolution for our permanent SWANA center. Second Withers.
Motion made by Fisher, seconded Withers. Peters. Lopez. Mahatma. Go. Potter. Ackman. Panera. Prayer. Fisher.
To abstain.
Aye.
Withers.
Aye.
Norris Panera.
Aye.
Nagaraj. Aye. Wu.
Aye.
Estes.
Aye.
Stratton.
Aye.
Dillon. Lewin. Ducharme.
Aye.
Derby. Nice, aye as well. Just to you two? Okay, great. Phil. ASUO Chief of Strategy.
All right, good evening. My name is Ravi, I use pronouns, ASUO Chief of Strategy. I also want to do the emoji thing. I'm big on the emoji. Mostly for when I don't like what somebody's, saying, drop the trash can emoji, they know they're cooked. I want to give you all a brief update about something that's going on in the food fair. I think you can talk a little bit more about this later in her update at length, but just a quick thing. We've been handing out those or having students fill out those little sheets of paper next to that I think it looks like ballot box. Those are to give feedback on the food pantry and just food security generally on campus. So myself and Director Chris Walker sit on one of the Vice President of Student Life committees for planning the logistics and funding of the food pantry. And that data is really helpful for us just because the testimonials and data that we have from the food pantry or from students who use the food pantry is a couple years old. And just so as long as we're planning that new project and we're trying to have those recommendations to the Vice President of Student Life by the end of the calendar year, it's just very helpful to have this that information. And also they'll be going out a like Qualtrics type survey, which will also be very helpful if you can encourage your friends to sign that or to not sign it, but just like, fill it out whenever they get the chance, particularly if students that like utilize the food pantry quite often. that is very, very helpful, but any student feedback is more helpful than none, so thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Vice President Gary.
I'm kind of really the audience in the fact that here in the city, not necessarily answer the question sequence. So,
I actually don't know how to fix that. I don't think that's gonna happen. Hold on. It doesn't fit. Okay. We'll just move on to the next part of the agenda. Oh, sorry. Is there anyone else for announcements? Anyone? Wait. Oh, yes. Yeah, so
Take care, we're there for the possible door game file.
Yeah.
That's that question.
Hello, y'all. My name is Tyler. I'm a neuroscience major and I have minors in 3PM and sociology. And I just wanted to bring to y'all's attention to see if y'all could help me solve an issue that has affected some of my classmates and close friends to be a voice for them. I'm proposing that y'all help me change the deadline to change the class from pass no pass to graded from week 7 to week 10. Reason number one, this might be a little scrambled. Either way, we pay the money, we don't get a refund, there's no financial loss in this, which I think is what the school most cares about. Second of all, when you change a grading option, it's only for the student's benefit, and we are supposed to be a student-serving institution. And some examples, just in case none of y'all can really exactly relate to this situation, some people will change to pass no pass when they had a really bad term, and getting a bad grade is even worse. But another reason that you can change your class to pass no pass is because you were not interested in it at all, got a bad grade because you didn't care about it. But I'd like to argue that this is a really important discovery to find out what you don't like by taking a class, just as much as it is to take a class and find something that you do like. So I'm just wondering why students for this change. It creates so much stress, and also you even know what grades are by week 7, and that's also a time when a lot of students start going to office hours. Also, these weeks are when a lot of final projects come in, which can fully change the trajectory of your grade. And if you change it to say pass no pass, then you might be unmotivated to do any work for the rest of the 3 weeks, making you definitely not pass. But also, if you change it to graded, wait, one more second. Okay. So you change the pass no pass and you end up getting a C. Then you have to retake the whole entire class, pay again. And I know that you can go to some center and plead, and they make you give some really personal reason. And also, the line is like very long, is what I've heard, to even get into that. So I just think it's a big hassle, and I feel like you guys could help me, or because someone told me to come here, so I'm hoping that y'all can try and help me with this thing that I think is an issue. Yeah, that's, oh, okay, one last thing. When you do change it to grade, say you're feeling hopeful in those last 3 weeks, and then you end up getting a year and F. Not only is your GPA ruined, and you're gonna have to take maybe more classes to try and get it back up, or your grad school choices have just greatly minimized. I just think it's a flaw in the system. I was hoping that y'all could change it to help me try and change it to make it easier for a lot of students here.
Well, thanks so much for coming and bringing that to us. I got something, but I'll let Senator Scarlett go first.
I just have more of a clarifying question. So thank you, Douglas, for coming and bringing that to our attention. You want us to help you change a class that you're currently taking or that you previously have taken to give it an option if students want to pass or no pass past a certain deadline. can you re-explain what the current issue is? Like, I know you have all your supporting points about why it's horrible. Yes, as students, we all fully believe and agree with what you're saying. Can you re-explain what the exact problem is?
Yeah, so it originally came when I was just talking in a staff meeting and we were talking about like school years and stuff. And something that came up was how there's grading options and the deadline is week 7. And the 2 grading options are your class can be graded as pass, no pass, or it can be graded like A through F. And you can't change it past week 7. And if you do want to change it, you have to wait in this really long line at like an Oregon hall. And then they go in there and they're like, okay, give me a reason why you did it. And then you need to have proof of the reason. Like I think someone need to be in like a hospital, like you need to show them a hospital note or something, even when you could have just really something or really just had like something like say you're part of the encampment last year and that caused you to not be able to get a grade in a class or something. It's just like there's other circumstances and I think it puts a lot of stress on the students to make a decision by week 7 when not even all their grades are out.
Got it. Okay, so you're just looking for the one exception for the one class.
Oh no, I'm just asking for like a policy change.
Okay, gotcha.
Like the whole system. Like I think why it's week 7, and if any of you know, I would love to see. I don't know why either. Week 7 is just so regular. Week 10 would give a little more time, reduce all more stress for a lot of students.
Yeah, it seems like sort of an arbitrary number somebody in Oregon or Johnson Hall sort of made up and everyone decided to go. So we don't have any control over like that sort of policy change, but 5 of us just sit on the university senate, just made up of faculty, or the president of the university, President Schultz, the provost, and a number of other people that make those sort of policy changes. And that one of the committees is committee on courses. And I think bringing this to them is something, I mean, when university senate is something that changes your policy. And so if we could collect your information somehow, we can assign that volunteering at the university senators, but we can connect with you and try to figure out a way to talk to the senate, because I think this is something that's affecting all 22,000 students. So I really appreciate you coming. Mel is one of the university senators. She can get your information and we can connect.
So when I first brought this to someone in ASUO, I did mention like, is there any way that I could get like a survey to see how many people this really affects, just as more evidence or something? But I didn't know it affects, but due to the people that did affect, and I had to hear their pains about it, like graduate school, their whole academic career, their whole academic future can really be changed by a year on a transcript, because it really matters sometimes. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We should definitely do something like that. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for reviewing this.
Sorry. Oh yeah. Do I have to go to the microphone?
So
Like, they can hear me? Okay, wonderful. My name's really good mentioned earlier, and I will help represent the science department. So I know they're collecting your information, but I would also love to touch base. Just talk to you. Just want to put that out there. Just so you know.
Thanks so much. Anybody else for public forum? Getting out the vote, like yesterday was the last day to register, so don't try to register now. They help you. But that link actually still works for out of state folks. Entertaining, but your piece of your homework assignment for the next 3 Senates is to tell your folks to roll your balance, start getting that today. So let's get to it. Okay, I'm financial assistance. So let's say it's 13,700 allocated reserve, $26,093. We'll start with our first unallocated reserve request. Anyone here for women in business? I unallocated reserve request from women in economics. Motion made by Pastor Ralph, seconded Nesbeck, all in favor. Heather, right? Oh, Ducharme?
I can wait until after unallocated reserve.
Okay, great. Please.
Hi, my name's Anna. I'm
having women in economics, and we are requesting $295 from the unallocated reserve. 250 of those dollars would be going towards buying stickers and pins for like merchandising at tabling events. None of which have UO logo or anything like that. And then the remaining 45 would be to buy pizza for an upcoming Halloween event. And then, yes, that's $45. But yeah.
I've seen also.
Okay, cool. I moved to authorize spending allocated reserve to women in economics, OS number OS 3545. The amount of, do I do it for each line item? So $45 to line item social events and $250 to line item marketing. For a grand total of $295. $600.
Actually moved by Cole, seconded Pinheiro, all in favor? And
Thank you.
On Zoom. Once, twice for global health. Is anyone on Zoom? I need to take the request for students for global.
Thanks, Ro.
Should I look this up second screen while in favor? Anyone here from Diversity Alliance?
Hello, I'm here on Zoom today representing the Neurodiversity Alliance.
Okay, great.
I'm having a little difficulty hearing what's happening there, so apologies if I accidentally interrupted anyone.
Cool, go. 1 second. Hold on. I move to hear the unallocated reserve request from Neurodiversity Alliance at UO. Motion and second Potter.
Okay, so we're requesting $138, which will go towards 2 different events that we're putting on this term. Both are pretty similar, will be sensory friendly holiday parties, one for Halloween and one for the end of the term for just general winter break related holidays. The funds will be used to get some snacks and some activities to use at these meetings, which will both be open to any UO students that would like to attend and have a sensory-friendly place to celebrate without feeling pressure to go to more sensory uncomfortable places to be included in holiday celebrations on campus.
Awesome, thank you. Was that Withers? Memory?
I was just gonna make the motion if that's okay.
Okay, you can make it. I'll ask if there's discussion.
I move to authorize spending from unallocated reserve to group neurodiversity alliance at UO group number OS 350 to line item holiday parties in the amount of $138. Second Fisher.
Motion made, Withers, seconded Moreno. Was there any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Great. I'm here today for medicine and ministry.
The request for medicine and ministry.
Motion made by Withers, seconded Wiedemann, in favor. Great. Now, so just
Do you just recognize me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Struggling with the audio. I'm trying my best, but it's pretty hard. And I appreciate that you're trying as well, I know, but I just wanted to state for the orgs that were coming that I've been voting no on surplus requests, and it's not anything against you in particular and your request. This just the reason we have a huge pot of money is because of COVID and a kind of this once in a lifetime opportunity. And, I'd rather spend these larger sums on longer investments like, perhaps the $300,000 request we might hear about later from exec. I will be voting yes on votes for less than $1,000 since that's the line that has been set for in our rules, but above $1,000, I'll be voting no. Again, nothing against you, but that's how I'm voting.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to speak really quickly to the $300,000 request. With the accessibility audit that folks should be familiar with. It's $1 million audit. ASUO will likely pay for part of it, about $300,000, which are those kind of big investments that we've been talking about making. But that hasn't come. It's not happening yet. So that was the context for that.
I guess this is slightly just a response to Senator Deschamps' comment. I do think that it's definitely wise to think through the surplus because it is once in a lifetime opportunity. However, I do think that one of the things that we've been funding are very, very valuable to students. I think thinking back to even just high school, the things that made my high school experience so valuable were the club events I went to or the trips I went to for mock trial, Model United Nations, things like that. And that really impacted my high school experience and honestly influenced me to run for ASUO senator. Also, I feel like a lot of the requests probably wouldn't be funded otherwise. And I think that for instance, the Folklore Society, I think that really is very valuable. Also, this is probably maybe not as common of a take, but I do think that maybe I don't know if we should be funding things like accessibility ramps and things like non-binary bathrooms because I feel like the university should be funding that. Why should we be? That is absolutely needed for student life. So I feel like that should be coming out of other funds because that needs to happen. But why do we have to pull the slack? I yield.
True.
I'd like to respond to Andrew and just say thank you for voicing that this odd time in the agenda. However, I do want to say in the conversation that I personally have wanted to have just because I wanted to know your take on it and I wanted to open that conversation for other senators to know that it's okay to vote differently and have different ideas for how surplus is used, and we haven't had that conversation as an entire Senate. So I think it's valuable that you bring that up, Andrew. And I just wanted to say thank you, and I agree, but I do agree with what Senator Potter had to say, that it is valuable that we are still voting for these things. However, there is that middle ground that I think it's reasonable to still think through and not just approve every request that comes across the board. I yield.
Gary.
The thing that I just wanted to touch on is that a lot of us ran on ideas of cultural organizations. And there have been cultural organizations that have conservatives here in the Senate that have asked for surplus from Senate or unallocated reserve. And while I can, like you said, Liz, while I can respect everybody's opinions and while I do agree that this is a place for discourse, this is a place where we are able to share our own opinions and have arguments. I just kind of pondering over the thought, Andrew, really how you ran primarily on the idea of funding cultural orgs throughout your term, throughout your involvement with student power, yet you come here and you're in the Senate and you're over and over and over again denying these cultural organizations and not necessarily giving them a chance. And to go back to Eleanor's point, the reason I keep pondering over this thought too is because I think that your argument for, the long-term effort entirely supports the reason why we should be supporting these cultural organizations.
a lot of us, I'm speaking here as an Indigenous person because first and foremost, I'm completely honest about this point too, is that I'm an ASUO co-director before any of my involvement in ASUO. I am an Indigenous person before I'm involved in ASUO, before I'm involved in the University of Oregon, before I'm involved in ASUO. So my family grew up every single person in my family saved up exactly $100 to be able to spend that on a water table, on a plastic water table for me to be able to play out when I was 4. The reservation had roads, had 2 big, dirty old tea bags out of their garbage to be able to feed their children at night, to be able to have dinner, to be able to provide at least some sort of sustenance. My own family had to farm. My Chupa, my grandpa, had to go out and kill ducks and hunt and game before he went to school by the age of 5. A lot of these people who are a part, or I guess I'd rather not speak for everybody, but I think that there is not really not much to be said about the financial disparities that students who are a part of these cultural organizations may face, just because of the way that our society works in terms of how colonization has impacted specifically Indigenous communities, and I guess more broadly other communities are of color too. And so again, to go back to Eleanor's point, is that these are still long-term impacts. I would not be able to get through my undergraduate career if it were not for ASUO, if it were not for efforts like the Mother's Day powwow. While they may seem like a one-time event, while they may seem like a one-time funding solution, or however you may put it, ultimately these are the memories, these are the relationships, these are the opportunities that students here, that students a part of these cultural organizations specifically are going to be carrying for the rest of their lives. These are the opportunities, even if, if things didn't turn out the way they were, these are the opportunities that I wouldn't be able to get to experience if if I was not afforded the opportunities that I have now. And so I think that as we continue to have this conversation and as we continue to share our own ideas, it is also equally as important to remember that everybody, especially those who are active in these organizations that are requesting from surplus, everybody has different lived experiences. And even though it may not be something against the org personally, and I completely understand if this is holding your own personal beliefs as it comes to your job, no one can change trajectory of somebody being a part of this institution, being a part of organizations that they are a part of. And so I really actually do appreciate you starting our surplus request by saying why you're voting no on today. And I think that is a great step forward, because I know from at least my position and maybe from other people's positions, there was a real sense of confusion there about why there were so many no's yet no answers. I yield.
Thank you, Vice President Gary. Anybody else? Dushar,
Yeah, may I speak?
go for it.
Yeah, I think these are valid critiques of my actions. I understand the frustration, and I don't think I was clear enough a month and a half ago or so. I don't think I explicitly, I went back and checked my statement, and I did not explicitly say I'm voting no on surplus requests because I don't want surplus spent in large sums on student organizations, specifically this extra large surplus. I am sorry about that. But I will say that I have been, consistently voting no, and it's not, I'm not voting against, these cultural student orgs, which are obviously are doing very important work. And I don't doubt the important work that they're doing. I think the the three mistakes I've made has been, I voted yes on the ASUO request for our room rent, and I voted yes on the Square Dance Club needed more rent, and I voted yes for them. And I don't think I should have. I think I should have just, because I've been like 98% no, and I think I should have, saved it 100% to make it really clear that, this is not about an individual org. As to the point about how this is being spent, and this is my last thing, and then I will be done, is that yes, the university should be paying for these longer term improvements that we're taught, that I am specifically advocating for. However, the university historically does not do that, right? Like they have had 35 years since the passage of the ADA to fix their compliance issues, and they don't, right? And the reason it's is because, oh, the money's tied up in some sense, and there's no way to, we don't actually have any money, so we're not going to actually do this survey. Housing's not going to be part of the accessibility survey. And so in this case, we do have an opportunity, a very rare one, where we have this unspoken for amount of funds that, I would like to see to use to improve students' lives. And it is going to be in a different way than the way that, you all are highlighting, which obviously is important. But, I also feel like it is going to be important for people to be able to get into their dorms, for people to be able to make it to their classes easily, as an example. And there's other routes that, we can perpetuate positive change in different ways. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to Colin in a moment, but I do want to say something. Oh, sorry. I want to say something. You said it like you didn't say explicitly that you're voting. You didn't say anything until Senator Dillon 2 meetings ago asked you why you were voting no. And so, I mean, it left everybody wondering. I'm sure it left the orgs wondering. And the apology really doesn't need to be to Senate. It needs to be to those orgs. And I'd be really careful, call it just the Square Dancing Club, because these clubs make our university, and they're more than orgs, they're communities for students. And ASUO has literally no other reason to exist than to uplift these students that are like this. So, cool.
Yeah, I have a really quickly, because I do feel like at the end of the day, this is kind of like derailing the conversation and we have people waiting on us. But I just do want to remind you, Andrew, that when you were in person, you voted yes, but then over Zoom, you feel very comfortable voting no to people you can't see. So I have a feeling if you were in person, these no votes wouldn't even be happening. So I think it's something you should consider, that if you were sitting in the room and looking in these people's eyes, would you still be saying no? And if your answer is yes, then keep voting no. But if the answer is no, then maybe consider if you were sitting in the room with everyone else, you might be voting differently. So something to think about. That's sorry.
Sure. And then
I just got done saying like how much I wanted this conversation to happen, how much it actually needs to happen, and this discourse is something that I feel like all of us feel like is very way overdue, and I think we all need to have way more discourse with Senator Starr, as well as like just being figuring out more individual decisions, not just do sharp against all the rest 24 of us. We need to be way more holistic about how we are talking about how we spend our money, and put aside the personal beliefs, but talk about our business and our role as student directors, which I agree with a lot of the statements that are being said. Just need to continue this conversation. However, I'm going to move to postpone this discussion until it's a different conversation where we don't have organizations waiting on us. Not just one, but we want to set it back secondary. We can move on to services requests.
motion made by Springs, second Garrity. Lincoln, or sorry, Peters.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Aye.
Vote. Hagman. Aye. Pinero.
Aye.
Moreno.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Withers.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Roger.
Aye.
You.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Straight.
Aye.
Aye. You sure?
Aye.
Yeah. Next, surplus request. This one, thanks.
Hello, I'm Nancy. I'm the treasurer for Aspire Indicators. Today we're requesting a total of $1,800 from surplus. Each term we hold about 5 chapter events for a total of 15 throughout the year. They're open to all students. At each event, we plan professional development themes, topics, info. At each event, we try to purchase snacks for students, including pizzas, chips, soda, juice, etc. With our new expanded membership of 40 to 50 students, we'll need at least $100 per event. Since we started with 200, that would cover our first 2 events, but we'll need $1,300 to go on to chapter events to cover the other 13 events. We also plan 2 social events per term open to students. Current events include pumpkin patch, Valentine's event, various crafts, holiday festivals, grad school workshop, bingo. Each social event will cost roughly $100 to $150. So we paid $500 to cover the other 6 events. And we're going to place these hopefully in our special events for flexibility. And since we're a relatively new organization, we've seen exponential growth within our organization's engagement with students. So the money that may have been enough a couple years ago, a few members, is not enough now with a growing number of members. Like October 9th, we had our first chapter event of the turnout and spent roughly half of our chapter event funds just for 2 pizzas. And we had 40 to 50 students show up, many students didn't get any. This is just an example of how we're growing fast, which the regular annual funding process didn't account for.
Awesome, thanks.
We'll go this way.
So that's I'll say that the score will seem pretty straightforward. So let's speakers say it's not cold first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, right, thanks for coming. And it's really awesome that so many people are in your events. And yeah, I'll actually just yield if other people. So it's, yeah, it was, yeah, different.
I think
Yeah, this sounds awesome. I'm really exciting that you guys are growing so much. So I'm operating spending surplus from Inspiring Educators. OS number OS117I. The amount of $1,300 for line item chapter events and $500 for line item special events for a total of.
One second has been. Lucas. Aye. Here. Willis. Ramirez. Nagarajan. Aye. Woods.
Aye.
Yes. Straight. Sure.
Nay.
Next, you're still.
Hi, that's me. I'm on Zoom. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you correct.
Okay. Do I say my request now or do I wait?
Yeah, go for it. You can go for it.
Okay, yeah. We're requesting $4,500 to send some folks to a convention. We ran into some hurdles, which were probably to be expected, around getting everything booked in time. And so all of the hotel rooms more or less doubled in price. Which means that we no longer have enough money to get the hotel rooms and the registration costs. So a little over $2,000 of this new request is to cover the cost of hotel rooms. And then we're also seeking an additional $2,173.50 for per diem reimbursements after the fact. The caveat there, I guess, is that we are trying to get an answer from the law school as to whether or not the Career Center in the law school actually has funding to help offset per diem costs. They have up to $200 per student in reimbursement available, but like a finite amount and nobody knows how much they actually have. So we're not sure if that's a viable option. And I know this like maybe horse has been beaten to death in the previous like 20 minutes, but we don't really know where else to look for funding. A lot of like the National Lawyers Guild and like public interest, especially like legal work, this is like maybe the wrong term, but it's pretty incestuous. Like it's the same people donating that are the same people asking for donations, like on and on. It's the same in a lot of public interest stuff. It's the same with the encampment. It's like always the same crowd. So it's really difficult to find outside funding. And like I said, the law school, we're not sure is a viable option, which is why we're requesting the per diem reimbursement as part of the surplus request. But if it comes down to it, we're more interested in making sure we have a hotel than getting our meals comped. So.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chloe. Sure.
I also just want to make the motion and then people can ask questions later. Afterwards. I move to authorize spending from surplus to the Group National Lawyers Guild OS number OS 289I in the amount of $4,500 to the existing line item NLG convention.
Second Fisher.
Motion made by Ackerman, second by Fisher. Is there any discussion here?
I just had a really quick question for you, relating back to the chat that you sent earlier. Where exactly is the workshop being held?
Let me look. I don't know. It's in. Okay, I don't think we have a room. It's either in the commons of the law school, which is just like that main area with all of the seating, or it's in room 142, which is also like on the ground floor. But yeah, we would love to have a PFC tag person there. I don't know what the correct word is.
Senator Mohammed says that she will be there.
Thank you.
Just think I was her tag.
She was saying that she was your tag. I will send that out into the PFC chat tonight. I think there might also be other people that ASUO interested in. Just thank you. Thank you.
Great. I believe the motion is made by Ackerman, second Fisher. Peters. Lopez. Connor. Ackerman. Pinheiro. Moreno. Fisher. Williams. Rivera has been out. Nagaraj. Wu.
Aye.
Esbank.
Aye.
Scrub. Dillon. Liddon. Ducharme.
Nay.
Chloe's showing her dog right now. You can't see it, but it's great. Cole. Congratulations, Chloe. Have a good day.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys' work on this and all of your cooperation.
That's good. Okay. Thanks, Chloe. Eugene's forbidden fruit. Anyone there here to present on that request? Maybe on Zoom. Fisher.
Table request from surplus request from June's. Second Pinheiro.
Motion made by Fisher, seconded Pinheiro. All in favor? Opposed? Other? Great. All right. Minority Association for Free Medical Students. Who's on this? Okay, so can we get a motion?
Or I moved to table the Minority Association for
Motion made by Cole, seconded by Lopez. All in favor? Other? Great. All right. Back in. You guys ready?
I don't like public speaking.
That's okay. I don't need it.
Just take
Yeah, you make it myself. But that works too.
I love the hat, by the way. Is it your birthday?
If you just want to introduce yourself, your voice.
My name is Ash. I use any pronouns. My favorite emoji is the eye and then the lips and then the eye. And I'm here today to request surplus funds for a total of $675 for our small and large events for this term. 450 of that will go to our large events. That's in addition to our existing 500 we already have. And then 225 will go to two small events that we'll be having this term.
Awesome. Thanks for that. That's great. Anyone else speak? Blue and then Rouge.
I just had a quick question from looking at your request, about how you're estimating the amount of people for each event. I saw there was like 200 for one and like for another. I wasn't sure like how many members you have or.
Our membership has grown. Last term, we had like an average of 50, and so far this term, we're seeing like 70. And then on top of that, for like large event, it's gonna be a game fair, so it's gonna host several other clubs as well as esports. So we're also expecting to see their memberships grow.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I am.
Senator Withers and then Senator Paul.
Just hoping you could explain what events you're having.
Yeah, the large event is gonna be like a game fair. We're trying to make an annual thing. This is gonna be the third one. And we're having it in Crater Lakes. It's open to all students. We're gonna include pizza, games, like switches, stuff like that, and then the tournament. For the small events, we're gonna do a little Halloween one or green one down at the night library. And then we're also planning to host like a trivia / Jackbox games night at Hard Box.
Awesome.
I was just wondering if you had any of the numbers of attendees from your previous big event. And then also I was wondering, is your club the primary club funding the big event, since you said that it's a collaboration, or are you going to get any other funding from other clubs?
So far, we're the only club funding it. We did give the other clubs the option to fund like things like desserts or prizes, but we're just funding the room costs and the food. What was your question?
Oh, do you remember how many attendees you had at the previous big event?
Yes, so we counted, but we only had attendance for 89, so we're gonna cut down on like people scanning QR codes and stuff like that.
Thank you, Ayo.
Yes.
I'm just gonna go ahead and make the motion if that's okay. Sorry, I can't. Sorry. I move to authorize spending from surplus to Group Board and Card Games Association of Maximum Nerdy. Right, I read that correctly. OS number 328I in line item fall events in the amount of 450 and to line item small events in the amount of 225 for a grand total of $675.
Second Fisher.
Motion made by Ramirez Banana, seconded Fisher. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Other? Great. Congratulations, guys.
We won't be like the money, it's gonna be in 3 weeks. Or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So you were counting steps. Okay.
Melissa, everybody she her pronouns. Oh god. Sorry. Everybody she her pronouns, and I'm currently the director of account management for Ad Tech. Okay, thank you. Just a brief explanation for those of you who aren't very familiar with Ad Team. Ad Team is a student-run organization that walks a real-life ad agency. our team of 30, including myself, works all the fall and winter term on this nationally sponsored client to create the most compelling ad campaign. And this year, our client is AT&T. We're working long and hard as we prep for the National Student Advertising Competition, or NSAC, which is hosted by the American Advertising Federation, or AAF. And at this competition, we go on agency tours and networking events and compete against more than 150 universities. So today I'm requesting $910 to fund our only ASUO funded funding activity. 26 of our 30-person team will be attending. We track this by doing like a poll who can go and giving a date. So 26 people. It's $35 each person after receiving receiving a quote from the place is called Coral Ventures. And we realized how important team bonding was last year. I was only junior executive at the time, but it did really well with connecting our team and getting us to be closer and like connecting everyone. And I want to say implementing really valuable skills like teamwork and critical thinking. Our only regret from last year was not doing it sooner. So yeah, we think it's essential for the success of our team in the upcoming competition. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. I'm just gonna say that everyone in your club was like, everyone is eligible to go on this
Yes,
team.
yes.
Okay, great. All right. Lopez, Blue, Fisher.
I just want to say that's super impressive to be able to have like people come with you on a certain day. Like, look in the room. All the senators are here. How impressive that is, and it's like having everyone at the same time, just like team practicing.
Yeah, that was honestly pretty impressive too. Like I was surprised, but I'm really happy mostly everyone could go. So
I salute you guys.
I also think it's really awesome. So motion, I move to authorize spending from surplus from group ad team OS number OSOO 0050 in the amount of $910 to $901.
Seconds. Any discussion, Fisher?
I yield.
Okay, Peters, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Yeah. Right.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Aye.
Meredith.
Aye.
Rajan.
Aye.
Blue. Blue. That's right. Spring.
Aye.
Philip. Blue.
Aye.
You sure?
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
Carried.
Aye.
I say aye as well. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for being here. Good to see you.
I just about funding. I was very happy to fund this, but I think that in the future we should really think critically about what kind of like group bonding type events that we're funding, because I remember it was like our first meeting when we were still with field senators. Warsaw Sports Business Club came in and they tried to ask for money for like 6 of their people to do something. And I think in that kind of situation, I definitely would have said no, because it was like a very exclusive event that only a few people could participate in from their group, and people have to like pay to be in their club. So I'm glad that we funded this, but I think that we shouldn't always just like fund group events, especially when it's just like a fun activity for their members. So yeah, I'm just
I agree. Thanks, Rachel. That was, and a large part of that was because they like had money for a trip to Boston, and then they then wanted to use for like a multi-$1,000 trip for 6 people to go bonding and go karting. Great, not on me, I could not going to go live.
Just is it 500 or 1,000 where we can all just go aye?
Anything less than 1,000 is a little activation.
disagreeing with your statement, Rachel, but I'm just like also like backing up since they make the motion. I also in their document, they said it was about like $35 a person, which I think is like a valid amount to allocate. And it's a good portion of all the members, so, but I agree, we should think about that, because I do remember the Warsaw guy.
I remember it being a 30-minute conversation, and I'm like,
Yeah, I yield.
Okay, hello. Similarly to National Lawyers Guild, we've been running into a little bit of issues. So this is a surplus request, an additional $3,000 for airfare because since last time I've seen you all, prices jumped. And our travel agent won't book anything until I see y'all again.
It's pretty straightforward to me, because how much before we already funded it. We're gonna go,
Yeah.
wow, a little higher, I would say, we're gonna go coal and then.
Just making a motion.
Okay.
Is that where y'all were gonna do? Move to authorize spending from surplus to, Asian Pacific American Law Student Association. Oh, you already have it typed down? OS number OS 010I in the amount of 3,000 to line item of NAPAEA conference.
Motion made by Colton, second. Is there any discussion? As like,
I just wanna make sure that you don't have to come back and see us if you just request for like. You think this will be good, like you request that money.
Specifically for airfare, I had asked about lodging and they said, I don't know. But you guys are aware this is.
yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Okay, great. Anybody else for discussion? Peters. Aye. Lopez. Aye. Mohammed.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Ackerman.
Aye.
Canary.
Aye.
Canary. Bishop.
Aye.
Lynch.
Aye.
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 Maldonado.
Oh.
Estes.
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Screen. Dillon.
Aye.
Goodwin.
Aye.
Ducharme.
Nay.
Cole.
Aye.
Fairday.
Aye.
And I say as well. All right. Spring.
I move to have a 5-minute recess. Or,
We are in recess.
Say.
Number 7. 7.
When I start with those guys, especially Peters, I don't know. My eyes close, but when I start looking at people, I'm like, double rethinking, and I'm like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and my clips.
I know, Robert, like.
We only have 5 minutes, bro. But no,
I feel like.
no,
I was like dying, I was.
I think on Saturday.
No, I saw you.
But you go to that house show.
I was like, I couldn't even.
Wait, where is this? Yeah, Justin invited me. I feel like we're there, right? We just go for like 30 minutes. That's what I'm saying. Are we just? Yeah, oh my God, I feel like it's a conversation. Like, it's like DM.
No.
Oh my god, yeah. I think I was like,
That shit. Really? No, we can smell like the mice. Oh, so it's just and I got speech like Trump, I was like, right? Oh, yeah. I know, really, but it's the only fucking, it's like. Okay, I was gonna say, this is like down the street. Oh, look at me now. Okay.
Okay, that's the. It's not a lie. Wait,
No.
I know, here's the whole thing. Or not.
This
No, but if like my mom, it's like, I thought it was funny, cause I like said that. No, it's uniquely Chamberlain. It's, I don't know, I mean, right, I feel like a lot of people there, I think they write like.
Yeah.
Back then in the studio, I feel like it's. Yeah.
No, no.
So I think like, I'm gonna give it a try.
Or you can.
I mean, I like managed like a four for.
I drank too much water. Yes.
It's called.
Like, anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So like.
No, no, I forget what I did.
For my confidence.
Yeah.
A lot of yeah, 1922.
Brother Mahal. Yeah, I got brother. I'm so scared. And ever made for.
Yeah, like it was like, oh, I mean, if.
I sent them the 20.
I like, I didn't know.
And if not, probably got anything.
I see what.
Every time.
Okay, just checking. Is anyone allergic to peanut butter?
Oh, yeah.
What's gonna be the next question of the day?
No, I just want to eat my granola bar, but it has peanut butter, and I don't want somebody to like accidentally be allergic.
I don't want that there.
We'll play that right now. I was so soft. And the video.
Smiles again. Across the bus.
Yeah. You were like, respect that. Yeah. You're reading a lot. He's like, I'm like, that's all you have to say. Yeah, sorry guys. No, because it was so hard. Everything you said. You think we can hear it?
Alrighty, we'll be back in regular order. So before we get into all the updates and we move on, I think it's important that we continue the conversation. Because it was an important conversation, but I think so Stroke for allowing our org to take a lot of time out of this so to get them. So I'm going to yield to Senator Moreno, and then we're going to go back on that list that we had of folks before, which is going to be Moreno and Ducharme.
Dushar, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you right now. We'll see how that goes as you speak.
Yeah, I know it's a little spotty, so let me know if you can't hear me. I'm grappling a little bit with your logic, mostly because as much as you view surplus as once in a lifetime, I think with your logic, you're downplaying your role as a senator, is what you're really doing. Because I think that you hold a unique position that has unique access to admin to support students, and you are utilizing your role as if the power of Senate comes solely from surplus, and I think that's just not correct. I think we have power as student leaders to form working groups, write resolutions, get in meetings with admin that a lot of students wouldn't even think to request a meeting with or not able to easily access them. And I haven't really seen initiative from you to do that and to speak to these people or form a working group or carry out any of the initiatives that you really care about. So I'm curious, and I would like you to elaborate a little bit on what you see long term, what you see surplus funding long term. Like, what are those long term visions for you that you think student B dollars from 2020 should be funding? I yield to Sean.
Ducharme.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. The once in a lifetime part is the size of the surplus. And I think that, obviously you're right that our power is partially derived from our access and from the fact that we're elected as students. But the conglomeration of funds into such a large amount is like historically very rare, right? And that allows us opportunities that we don't otherwise have. I don't view surplus as the end all be all to our power and to our ability to change things. But it is like historically an outlier. And I wanted to highlight that. And I have in the past. To the lack of initiative, I did make one mistake. I didn't make that's I mean, I made many mistakes in my life, but I did not complete these surplus accessibility committee when I should have, and I did not finish that as early. And if that's not great, and I understand that, but I've been working on the Portland committee. I'm integrating the Portland campus. I've been working on stuff outside of ASUO. I've been working with GTFF. I've been working on a bill that's already been filed. Well, it's not been filed because bill's filing hasn't started yet, but I've got a co-sponsor on a law, still a bill to get transparency for university foundations like the UO Foundation so that we understand, so that they're open to public records requests, like the rest of the university is. I feel like I've been a participating member of the Academic Senate, and I would say that I've been a participating member of this Senate. Like the Folklore Committee, like I helped walk them through and get them their request onto the board here. We weren't sure about the difference between an allocated reserve and surplus, and so I wrote I filed a motion with the court to make sure that we had the ground rules at play, and they were able to clarify those rules for us. But I care about this stuff. I'm sorry if that's not coming. Geez, that's really confrontational. I'm sorry about that. But I won't say anything. I'm sorry. I just like I am trying to do things and I do care about this. And I'm sorry if, I'm coming off as an asshole.
Before we continue, I want to make sure that this is like this arena is a place not to attack anyone's character. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone has done that, but it needs to stay civil. And the second it doesn't, it's going to get shut down because that's not how I'm going to run things here. So, Andrew, thank you for your response. We'll go Penny next.
So I don't really get where you're coming from, and I think the biggest question that I still have unanswered, and maybe it's because I'm jaded and constantly fighting against this university to get things that students need, but I don't understand why you think new infrastructure, even though it serves students, needs to come out of student money. Like, we're a big ass school. We have a huge football team that is racking in millions of dollars. Like, at this last game, they oversold the tickets so they could fit more packs in there. So I just don't really understand why you think that needs to come out of this bucket of money. And like, I get it. Good for you for advocating for things, but I also don't think this is the space to be advocating for admin to be doing something, because this is not our circus or our monkeys. Like, if you want to go ahead and do ADA stuff, do it in a different place. Because I don't think we should be doing literally admin's job, respectfully.
Yeah, I guess to add on to that, sorry, that noise is weird. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why surplus is so large coming out of COVID is because student orgs didn't use a bunch of their money during COVID.
I would say that there's definitely a few different reasons for that. It's not using their money because enough said, and sorry, and two, there are some orgs, a handful of orgs that had their money taken away from them, aka the cuts that happened that time.
Okay, yeah, so my point being that it belonged to orgs in the first place, and these surplus requests is just giving it back to the orgs. And that seems very simple to me, but I would like to hear your thoughts, Ducharme, so I yield to Ducharme.
Yeah. I think that I think we're thinking too small if we think we're only for student orgs. Like, we are part of the shared governance of this university. Like, this money, we exist to advance the student life on campus, right? And if we were only worried about student orgs, like, why do we care about a food pantry? Like, there are other things that ASUO is involved in, and for good reason, because it makes student life better. Yeah, it sucks that admin isn't coming with the money. It sucks when they're at the negotiating table and they say, oh, GTFF, we're actually going to give you 0% raises because we have no money. We have no money to pay you anything. And we know that's not the case because all the reasons you're laying out, right? Because obviously they get a bunch of sports money and obviously they get a bunch of donations and they're able to crow about that, but the administration doesn't act that way. Doesn't necessarily act maybe in the best interest of the students. And I think we're a check on that. I think that our funds and we have an ability here to, affect some small fixes and some, small fix on the scale of the university, but large fixes on the scale of individual students' lives. Right? Like, yes, they sold a bunch of money, they got a bunch of tickets, there's a sellout crowd, but Talik, you were saying last meeting that the marching band doesn't get like any money from athletics. Their existence is basically to support like it's like a pet band, right? Like, I mean, it's an awesome experience for the students as well, but like they have to borrow equipment from high schools. Like, the money isn't fungible, which is crazy. And that's like a key problem of like governance in this university. And so when we have this kind of pool, that is unallocated, that's why I'm thinking that way and how I want to use it. It doesn't we don't solely exist for the benefits of orgs. We certainly exist. That's one of our main goals, but it isn't our only goal.
Thanks, Andrew. And I want to say something before we go to you, Liz, and then. You all should go to TFAB, the advisory board. And I think it's important to put this out here now. Athletics, completely separate department, not even your tuition. Your tuition does not pay for the athletics. So I want to put that out there right now. Additionally, Andrew, I think from where I was coming from, it's sort of my agitation with the original point was that like when we were running, I remember having a conversation with you, we were talking about students and that voters guiding the first sentence of what your first key three issues were, increasing funding to student boards. And so when we come here and I think there was no explanation before, so I appreciate you providing an explanation at this point. I think that's mainly where I was coming from. And I do agree with you that we are not, I didn't say before we wouldn't exist as that's true, but on departments. And we advocate at the Capitol, federal Capitol, at state Capitol. And so we do exist for other things. And it does suck a lot of the times that admin will cough up money for things that it should. But admin right now is in a position where they don't, not on the side of admin, but they're having to increase tuition because we are decreasing the number of students coming to every single year. And so that's what you start.
I wanted to say to the entirety of Senate that I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying earlier, Talik, that Andrew, you have, by having a different view of how surplus is spent, have, for lack of a better word, annihilated, right, or not annihilated, alienated yourself from this body, and by being absent, that has happened, and it has thus cleared the bias. I'm just saying it plainly. And that makes me feel a little uncomfortable as a Senate, a part of this body, that we need to be still respectful, that even though he has a different opinion about how surplus is spent, he is now backing it up. Even though it is late and we've had to ask for it, and even though I don't agree with what he is saying, it does not mean that that should be what causes him to be alienated from this group. We still need to be respectful and not make motions, not make discourse about Andrew's personal character. We need to separate opinions from job. He is handling his job the way that he thinks the job to be done, regardless of how what he said in the past. He is now moving forward with a very reasonable enough. His version of reasonable way to pursue with the funding, and we have not had a conversation about how surplus and how we spend surplus. I feel like he is justified in having these views, and I think we need to be respectful of that, despite our own personal backgrounds and how we have been affected by this university. And I know none of us have the same experiences in that way, and we all are justified in being like, why are you saying no? He is, by saying no, it does do harm to these organizations. I'm not saying that that's correct at all. However, just because it's a different view does not mean he should be alienated in that way. And I want to remind everyone that this is a unit. And when we call him out or have reactions to him in front of different boards like that, it does show a divide within this, and it does not make us stronger. And I think already being absent due to other circumstances that we cannot control does him a disservice, and we need to be better about including him and better about asking him for his reasoning and better about asking anyone generally why they're doing their decision making, not just Andrew. So yeah, that also just comes from growth going forward. We're all very new at this, so it's not necessarily a problem, but I'm glad we're having this session now before it becomes a further problem, before he is further alienated from this body, because he deserves it just as much as everyone else deserves to be here and have his own views. So I just wanted to say my piece on that. And Andrew, I very much respect you for being here and, just being able to take that and being able to back it up with your own views and how you feel that should be funded, even though we haven't had that conversation. So I'm glad we're having this discussion now. Thank you.
Second. And I would encourage you all to come to a surplus accessibility committee meeting if this is something that you all really feel passionate about. I'm gonna go Gary and then
He's on the next. Well, first, thank you, Liz. And that is 30 years ago. We all have our own opinions, and we sit here advocating for student works because it's scary going up here as a student org and advocating for yourself as a student org. I think that we also need to offer the entity to ourselves here. My second point that I wanted to make is just reiterating what Talib said earlier, Andrew, and we can just say sorry to us, you can say sorry to the courts. Because at the end of the day, that is who is being impacted by these decisions, not just by the no votes, but also by the lack of explanation. And I would say that it's, Senate it's kind of hard job primarily to support student orgs because it's student orgs where primarily we need the best for surplus for us. And even then, I just want to shed some light on the PFC and how we operate. So the PFC budget in its entirety is virtually entirely dependent on the CFC and DFC budgets. We don't get to make our benchmark in the same manners that DFC and CFC get to make their benchmarks. We can tell DFC and CFC make their benchmarks, and then find out italicized a little bit what our benchmarks are. And like that. Can you hear me better, Andrew? I think you do. Okay. Yes. Okay, great, fantastic. And so kind of what I wanted to say is that I'll just kind of reiterate, I don't know how much of that you heard, but I'll just reiterate the PFC part just for ease. We don't get to decide what our benchmarks are. We are dependent on CFC and DFC, and so the leftovers come to us. And so that is really why we see so many student orgs coming and requesting surplus. And I think there's a lot to be said about the IFB and how the IFB is paid by student dollars and student tuitions, and the whole argument there about how the IFB goes back to students, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But really at the end of the day, like with the deficit that is the entirety of the PFC budget, and considering how much work it takes as a student org leader and how much money some of these events cost, I think personally, not trying to sway you in any way, personally, I really believe that it is the org's right to access surplus. Because as we see time and time again, I think this comes up virtually every single surplus request that we have from a student organization. There's always a deficit in their budget because they weren't allotted it during the original budget process. I yield.
I raised my flag before Potter. I don't think I was noted.
Good.
I have a couple things to say. I want to back up Senator Ducharme when we're talking about the surplus. I mean, not the surplus. The ADA audit, because I think that some of us are misunderstanding the situation. The $300 that we would be $300,000 that we would be putting towards this would not be to like building like wheelchair ramps or like gender neutral bathrooms. That is to fund the audit that housing cannot afford. It is not that administration does not care. And it is not that the football team just doesn't want to give money to the students in wheelchairs. That's not how it works. Housing would have to pay for this, but they simply cannot because they cannot afford it. And while yes, it is our job to spend surplus on student organizations, I think it is an extremely valuable thing to have an accessibility audit done for students, because all students are affected by it in one way or another. And if we don't fund it, then it's not going to happen anytime soon. And while I am a big fan of giving our money to organizations, our job is to not only fund student organizations, but to help student life in general and to be there for students. And I think that funding accessibility is an extremely good way to do that. And I think it's harmful to say in front of student organizations who don't know what is happening that, well, the money that we would be spending is going towards other things, because they might have, like, they might misinterpret things, or they might, hear what we say and then think that's the truth, and then
go around and say things that are not true. Yeah, I yield.
Thanks, Senators.
I definitely think, I know I've said this at other Senate meetings as well, that I think that we should be discretionary towards how we spend surplus, and I still do agree with that. And I do think that, well, I definitely, us on CFC, we've been thinking of ways to have a lasting impact on, for instance, like students' health or student childcare, things like that. But I think that maybe we should come up with like a more concrete plan, which obviously the surplus committee, I realize, is doing. But I think that, at least for me, like I'm probably going to continue to fund all of these organizations until I know exactly how we plan to spend this money. And I do understand that there's the point, well, what if we spend it all and then there's nothing left? But I still truly believe in what I funded, so I wouldn't go back behind that. But I do think that yes, we all need to come together, maybe just the surplus committee, but come up with a plan on, I don't know how we want to make a lasting impact. Like obviously CFC on our side, we have a lot of ideas, but that's just CFC. I yield.
To that point, by the time when folks come up for these large requests, they should have met with a senator already. And that person should have been, PFC doesn't spend it, but that person should have said, look, like, how can we make this work? You know, that's best. We try to make the most student dollars impact the least amount impact the most people. So that, like, we should not just be approving any request that comes in. That makes sense? That's the whole reason that they're meeting. Oh.
Yeah, I have a few points that I wrote down, sorry. So, first I wanna go back to, this point as well, that like, I do think it's important to be, respectful, and I do think this is an important place to have differing opinions, but I do also think this is, a great space to hold each other accountable, and I really appreciate that that's what we're doing, because we can be respectful, but we don't have to see eye to eye, and it's okay to call something out that's been going on that is like, maybe like not for the right reasons. I also want to go back to Khalid's point on like what we all, and I think you mentioned this as well, just like what you ran on, Andrew, like, and and maybe this is a personal discussion to have later, but I found it incredibly disrespectful that you messaged me after a Paulsa request and that you wanted to be an advocate for them, and that you wanted to stay involved with like them going through like working with the travel agent, because you actively voted against them in the meeting, and like those are people I know personally, so they have asked me why, you know, the senator voted no. You were the only one to vote no, so I don't know why you would then want to sit in on a meeting or like be in contact with these boards who know you voted against them. I don't think that's making any student comfortable. That wouldn't be something that, in all honesty, that they would want. So I just think it's important to keep in mind that, you know, obviously anyone can vote any way they want, but then you don't get to also like, you don't get to be glad that you were outvoted. If you want something to pass, then you vote yes. If you don't want it to pass, vote no. I have a hard time with that. I'm really struggling with that. But I think it's important that we hold each other accountable, and I'm glad we're doing this, but and maybe this is a longer conversation for another time too, but I do think it's important to speak on it. So that's all I think. And I still support the audit. Sorry. I also am supporting the audit, and I think there's room to do both. I think there's room to support the audit and support student groups, and I don't understand why we have to choose, because we don't.
Absolutely. Well, Joanna, you still?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You raised your hand earlier. Would you still like to speak?
I did, but I mean, I can still say my piece. I I just wanted to agree with Liz and wanted to echo what she said because I do think that that this space still needs to be a comfortable and safe space despite differences in opinion. And I do very respect Liz for speaking up when everyone else kind of wasn't at that point. So I just wanted to echo that and hope that despite us all having maybe different opinions and coming from different backgrounds and ideas, that we can all still respect each other and keep this a safe space while still being able to call each other out when necessary. I yield.
Thanks, Joanne. Ducharme. Then Ms. Beck.
Yeah, so I wanted to respond to Senator Cole's point, which, I view. Okay, first I want to start with one, yes, we're allowed to have different points of opinion, but there should also be accountability, right? If someone's, opinions tilt into racism, you should judge them and treat them differently, right? And I can understand if people think that, my votes against cultural orgs tips into that. I don't think that's true because I've voted consistently against, outside of 3 counterexamples, which I've previously said were mistakes, I voted against all surplus requests. You can check the minutes, that's the case since the middle of the summer. But, I do want to validate, you're free to think I'm a jerk. And if you judge me on my actions, that's all I can ask for, right? Now to the point about talking about a pulsa, to me that encapsulates how I think about this, which is yeah, I did vote no on that. It's because I don't want that vote to pass, right? I don't want large surplus requests to be going through. But I want to support the student orgs, right? And there's this background process of fighting through the administration and fighting, these deadlines that, are bad, right? These deadlines which are preventing them from doing something that they want to do and are preventing us from supporting students, right? So I want to support these groups, right? I'm making motions to say, hey, let's vote on this so that they can get their money, but I don't actually want to spend that money, so I'm voting no, right? There are tensions, but ultimately I want to help people, but the vote itself goes in a different way than it might outwardly seem. I yield.
Okay, great, thanks. We're gonna go Esbeck and Fisher. Oh, and sorry, before you go, 1 second, I do want it to be noted that you also, I don't know if this was included in this, but you did vote yes today on add team surplus. Yeah.
I have a clarifying question for you, Khalif. For the committee on surplus accessibility, could you tell us more or tell me more about how that works? Do you come up with priorities and bring it back to us?
Yeah, so I worked for the last year. Sorry, I don't know. Okay, so last year we the folks on the committee sat and we talked about sort of our priorities, and the idea was we sent a Google form that we created to all the senators. We said basically, what priorities, what do you want to see spent on? I think that committee also actually put a survey out on ASUO's Instagram, as with students was. And we all collectively came together and went through all those responses and made a list of about a page or 2 long about what the financial priorities were. And when orgs came, we said, okay, well, this is good within our priorities. It's something we want to fund. Yes or no? And that's how we kind of made our decision. And it helped because you kind of grade everyone on the same scale.
Thank you.
I was gonna move to extend the agenda by 15 minutes.
Motion made by Commissioner Sang, all in favor. Opposed? Other, great. Oh, okay, thank you. Ducharme just let me know that he voted yes because it was under $1,000. Thank you, Andrew. Is that it?
Oh, and then also I wanted to, no, I agree with Emily. I think that we can do both. Funding the accessibility audit, we have surplus and it's meant to be spent on students.
And like there are also a lot of things that we do to help students that don't involve like money. Like today in the academic committee meeting, we were talking about like, you know, reaching out more to like different departments and deans and like, you know, making a newsletter, telling people about what resources we have. As ASUO, we are supposed to help students like any way that we can. And some of that is financial, but some of it isn't. And at the accreditation event, the people at my table were talking about the accessibility thing too. And I raised the point to some of the other accreditors that were there that, you know, housing doesn't have enough money to do this. And the response that I got was like, well, these donors like don't want to have to put their name on like a sewer line, you know? And so, you know, that like kind of raised the point that like, yes, like we need more public funding, and we're all frustrated with admin for a multitude of reasons. But I think that like while we're here and while we're in these positions, you know, if we have to like make these hard decisions, but in the end, it ultimately will benefit the students that we serve, especially with something like accessibility, then we should bite the bullet and do that. I yield.
Thank you. Sorry. Pinheiro and Garrett.
I'm just kind of backing off of what Fisher and Cole both said, and that kind of raises like the question for you, Andrew, is like if we were to engage in giving the surplus to this long-term project and like maybe a few others because it's such a big surplus, would you then be voting yes to these cultural orgs, the other orgs on campus that are asking for surplus?
Yeah, so I was gonna write this up this morning, but my current plan, but the thing that I was thinking about in my head was that we would separate out surplus, break it down into two lumps, right? And we would have one large sum that would be designated towards these longer term projects and one large sum that's more on the scale of an average fiscal year surplus that we would then spend on student orgs, right? And then once we'd had that discussion and we had a set pool of money for different services, we would, you know, then yes, I would be content voting yes on those out of that for student orgs out of the student org bucket that we'd established. The number I was thinking of was I think 866,000 because it was, I don't think that number is exactly right, but I was trying to do $1,000 for every person that had died of COVID in Lane County. And then we would put those towards long-term investments, and then the rest of the remaining surplus that we currently have would go towards student orgs. In which case, yeah, I would vote yes for these requests.
Okay, I just hope that kind of gives perspective to everyone else. I'm not going to comment any more about the situation, but thank you.
Jerry.
Is off. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say, let's not turn this conversation into something that it's not. Nobody is necessarily saying that you are against cultural orgs or that you are, you know, being racist, because that's quite a strong word to use. I only brought up that point because I think as a cultural org leader, it is a little bit strange that the person I voted for that said that they would be supporting cultural org financially is not supporting cultural org at all. And extending that to all orgs now for further clarity. I yield.
Brandon.
This goes back to what Cole was saying about Apulsa and how you felt you were supporting this org or wanting to support this org by meeting with them, but still voting no. And I wanted to share my perspective on that because last year I was heavily involved with Osberg and their budget process, and it was extremely horrible to meet with senators and have them just nod and hear our concerns. And then at the actual Senate meeting, have them vote against us and have these grand arguments and other ideas that it just makes it seem like you had these conversations behind closed doors. So I would urge you, if you want to vote no on something, you should meet with the org or express to the org the way you did today that you will be voting no. Because it was just awful to feel like conversations were being had behind closed doors. Yeah, I yield. Thank you.
Before we go to sewer, I'm just gonna say this. when I can tell you all the times I voted no, it's because I don't vote no. Like, the first time was when Osprey came for the referendum funding, or the referendum ballot measure. There was four. I was one of four senators that voted no. And I think it's important to remember that when you vote no, we were all elected by folks. Finance senators represent all 23,000 students. Academic senators represent all the people in their major. You are held accountable to people. And when you vote no, you should have a reason. I feel an obligation to my constituents when I vote no to tell them why. And I'm not saying everybody has to feel that way, but I think you should, especially because that's who you work for. And so I don't vote no lightly. I don't abstain lightly. You shouldn't be abstaining just because you don't want to vote. You don't want to vote. You got to find another job because you are here to make decisions. My grudge.
So my one to say was very similar to what you're about to say. I feel like if you're gonna vote no, like stand on business, you know, you voted no, that's completely fine. I respect you, Andrew, for voting no, and like whatever, right? But the main thing I wanted to say was thinking back of what Moreno said was that, you know, I think what's really important, whether or not like you're voting no, is still like it's like fostering a good relationship with the people on campus, you know, like if the orgs know where you're coming from, like I'm sure like a decent human being or like a reasonable person will be able to still like you as a senator doing your job and respect you, even if you're voting no. If you be upfront with them, they might not agree with you, but I think if you're transparent with what you're doing, which I think now you're being more transparent. At first, I didn't know none of us knew why you were voting no, but now we do. I think, like Moreno said, if you go up to orgs, I don't know how that you would do that. I'm sure there's a great way to do that. If you were to uh, express your mindset and everything, I think it would make more sense. I feel like that way you're sticking to your values, which I completely respect, but you're also not jeopardizing any relationships with organizations on campus. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to represent people. We don't, and we want them to be. We want to be on good terms with organizations. Period. That's what I believe in. And yeah, I do.
Before we go into Ducharme, if anyone else, anything else, I'm going to limit everybody's comments to 2 minutes from here on, just to respect the board's time and to respect your colleagues. Ducharme.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that that's a constraint that I face as an online senator, right? Like if I was in person, like I would have run over there after the vote happened and like talked to them, right? Like the Impulsive vote was a hard vote because it's like obviously I want to support these student orgs who are like crying in front of us. But like I've been voting, like I have like it's a conflict of my values, right? And like that makes it hard to stick, like that was a situation where it was hard to stick with like what I've been doing. But then is it fair to the previous orgs that I've been voting against if I like vote yes for this one, right? So that's not the point. The point is that like I should have been better because I am not in person, right? And so it is harder. It's not obvious for me to just like go across the room and be like, hey, this is what happened. I'm sorry about voting no. Like obviously I want you guys to have a great time. Like I'm sorry for what happened to you. But when it's a Zoom call, it's kind of like, okay, like I went to work. I considered the stuff. I listened to their arguments. And I should have reached out afterwards. That's on me.
Anybody else?
This is kind of, I would say, the next conversation, but I would want to say a little bit is there's going to be some pretty big financial decisions going into this financial year. I know for CFC, we already lost one contract. There's another contract's up in the air. And I know for me, I'm kind of torn on what ASUO should be more like focused on like on the ground student orgs, or there is a part of me that likes the idea of a bigger capital project, for lack of a better word. I'm not necessarily in agreement with the ADA audit because even though I know housing doesn't have the amount of money, I'm curious where the money is coming from for the East Campus Development Project. And so I'm curious how that'll working out. If they're ready to build a bunch of new dorms, why aren't they also ready to make sure the stuff they have on campus is like acceptable for everyone? So I'm suspicious about that project. But I think, and I've heard some things about the financial stuff happening in different other finance committees that is probably going to be coming up in the next week or two. So just kind of wanted to say that piece and prepare everyone for more financial decisions that are going to be coming up. So yeah, thank you. I yield.
That point, 10 a.m. to 12 in Friday. In the year, clearly permitting is the CBC main campus plans. Swindles room. Thank you. Friday. 10. That's if you want to know where that East Campus plan. That's actually a great point. I think Senator Dunn, maybe Senator Ezra, so I think some and Rachel, Senator Committee. So we'd be happy to inquire. Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
I put 15 minutes in my original motion to extend, and not like 10 minutes ago. So I motion to extend the agenda again by 15 minutes. Here.
Okay, bye. Other great. Thank you, everyone, for engaging in discussion. And yeah. I believe next on the agenda is the executive update from ASUO VP.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I will keep this pretty concise. For one, happy first day of the ASUO Street Fair. It has been such a huge success. Woo, yeah, clap. Awesome. Okay, great. I'm seeing y'all clap. Okay, cool. Yeah, just keep up the good work. I don't really have any specific updates regarding that, but it seemed like a really huge success. So just fill in the gaps if you are seeing that tomorrow seems a little bit. Just check the volunteer sheet and stop by whenever you can because there are some gaps in certain shifts. Also, we've hired our Secretary of Housing, Ben Frome, and our Secretary of Food Security, Marina Thompson. So if you see them in the ASUO suite, make sure to give them a warm welcome. We are also going to be starting up the party registration program again. And so there will be an information session hopefully by week 5. If you have any questions about that or if you want to get involved, please Teams me and I will make sure to spread the word. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to update you all. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Kiki. Happy Street Fair. Jerry, you want to just give all the updates? All yours.
Yeah, I don't really understand what you paused. My updates are that PFC is currently in the middle of doing tag meetings, so we're all in the office all the time and it's super fun. Budget requests are due on the 25th at 5 p.m. No exceptions. Budget hearings start October 28th. And we'll run until December 6th. They'll start again on January 6th, go until January 16th, then we'll hit appeals. And I think so far PFC benchmark is just about done. We'll be done on Friday. And yeah, that's kind of it for program science committee updates and VP updates. I had one, but I forgot what it was. I yield.
Hey, CFC.
All right, CFC update. We convened Friday in the EMU 210 Elm Room. Just sent the email like an hour before the meeting. Uber's still not ready. Admin list is taking longer. Different process this year. Unfortunate. So that's hopefully get resolved quickly, or at this point as soon as possible. And then yeah, benchmarks and benchmark meetings are coming along. In that, yeah. Thank you.
All right.
We had a really fun meeting at 8 p.m. on Mondays, which we always do, so if you want to stop by, you're always welcome. The first thing we did was a bylaw review. We fixed a typo in the bylaw that basically stated that if somebody in DFC gets put on timeout, aka suspension, they will be paid. We changed that to they will not be paid, because it was like a 3-week suspension. We do our stipends by month, which is 4 weeks. Doesn't make sense. Is there any questions about that? Why we changed it? No. Okay, next thing that we did. We voted to transfer the equipment reserve fund that was out of the UO Police Department's leftover funds when Duck Ride got moved from being under UOPD to being with transportation services. It was a total of $136,936.47, and that will be used for their accessibility shuttle, which will have a wheelchair lift. Very awesome stuff. They also have a new Duck Ride app, which is like an Uber app. Instead of like having to call them and stuff, you can just put where you're going to. It's very cool. You should all get it. Oh, wow. Yeah. And yeah, what else did we talk about? A lot of people are asking for increases this year. Shocker. So we're gonna be working that out, and then our benchmark request form got extended to being due next Friday, or not due, but it was due Sunday. It's now available until Friday, and then we sent out emails to all of our tags to get their final budget request form. And that's all.
Great, thanks. I'm going to add one more thing. I don't know if we talked about this last meeting. We actually also voted to get rid of the. Did we talk about this last meeting? No, yes, the bubble. Okay, great. Glad. Okay, thanks for something. You also have an update. University Senate will meet next week. Pretty fun. Chair has been. Oh, and University Senate is also going to President Schultz's house in early November. Yes.
Academic committee update. We had our meeting today from 5:30 to 6:30. If you're ever bored before Senate, come hang out and business with us. All academic senators now have their UO Senate tags that they have to reach out to, and their academic club tags. And then we were just having a long discussion about how do we connect with students and how do they know that we're the representatives and how to best like represent them. And what that looks like as a project that academic committee works on all together. I think that's it.
Great. Spot.
Just remember, please, if you're going to volunteer for anything, just do the sign out sheet in the office so that then like I don't have to check all the sheets. That will just save me so much time. And then please sign out. Also, I had a lot of people who were short like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Please make sure you're hitting like the either 3-hour or 5-hour mark, because if you're short like even 10 minutes, unfortunately I'm going to have to write you an email about that. Bye.
Great.
Message me if you're not getting paid. Yeah, you should be checking that. Also make sure that in your Duck Web, your mailing address is updated. There's multiple addresses. There's like home and then something else and then mailing. So just make sure you're looking at the mailing one so that you can get your stipend.
Trust, if I'm not getting paid, you're getting a message.
Oh, I bet.
Okay, great. Okay, so I have an update. We have a handout for you guys today. You can pass it down this way. So this is, hopefully we have enough for this. This is a resolution that I helped author last year in Senate that I just was recently thinking about. The resolution states, so as this sort of ties to the conversation earlier, we all represent students and student orgs. We need to be more intentional. And so there's a surplus on this side, for lack of a better term, so and this resolution says that all senators, sorry, All senators except for PFC senators must attend a minimum of 3 different student organization meetings and or events per term. The requirements. Sorry, this will suspend. One tier one or tier 2 organization, one identity-based organization, and like gender identities, cultural identities, sexual and changing identities, labor tolerance. I highly suggest you read this in its entirety. And I'm going to work with Alma this week to try to find a way. I can send a selfie there that you're editing back or something. But this is required for all terms. I'm going to be a little flexible because I know it's week 3. I'm just bringing this to you now on this term, but it is 6 weeks to go to 3 board meetings. So that shouldn't be very difficult. That's bad.
Is there a place we can look to see what like tiers groups are? 'Cause I don't know what.
That's a fantastic question. So we are still really kind of working on that. The process for that is we do have to pull every single lecture low key unless there's an easier way to do that. So I'll get back to you on that for now, and you look on the big spreadsheet of all of the clubs, like organized all of the different ways. Then has everybody seen that spreadsheet? Okay, I'm just gonna pull it up.
It's a SharePoint.
No, this is a Google Drive type deal. So, if you go into the POC folder. And we have this beautiful spreadsheet. Every single organization, what's it called? No, not tagged, recognized by ASUO, and this is the list that is organized alphabetically. All of you academic senators will see that you are listed on the side here. Bella, if that needs to be changed, let me know. This has all of their contact information, and if you look over here, some of them have tiers. I do believe that they need to be updated. If you go to this one and you're wondering, hold up, and you're wondering like which officer has who, or like maybe even you're looking for more information about club contact, then you can go to this one and it's organized by officer and all of our other fun stuff there. And slowly but surely, sometime here soon, we will have it all organized by interest, which is still a work in progress because budget season has slowly kind of slowed that down. But yeah. So that's there as a resource if anybody ever should need it. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I would suggest don't go to any meetings yet until we establish a way to make sure, to track it. But please do read it because it does see, PFC senators shall attend the same amount of meetings as other senators in winter, spring, and so forth. So there's a lot of good information in here. Additionally, street fair. If you're able to volunteer for more, just know you have a minimum of 2, but if you can volunteer for more, like he said, fill in the gaps. TFAB, I'm gonna, when TFAB happens, I'm gonna send you all the data. I'm requiring you all to go to TFAB, especially after today's conversation. It's important that we all understand how to plan it.
Can you say what that means?
Oh, sorry, TFAB is just for tuition and fee advisory. Okay. So it's they will talk about what tuition will be for next year's students. They will talk about how they got that number, how we get funded. It's a very, very informative meetings to the office of the president. Marion and Hunter sit on TFAB, so they usually have to go there. And okay, 2 more things. When we talk about students feeling invisible on campus, it's a real issue. And I was even talking to a student worker here in the EMU recently who said they almost feel invisible, even though there's tens of thousands of students coming through the EMU throughout the year. And so I just want to make it a point that even in your capacity, just as people, to like make people seen, say hi to people, smile at people, especially when it comes to be honest. That's like when you're there, you're doing your job. But even when you're outside, you're still representing ASUO, but you're also still a person, you're still a person and part of this community. So I just want to remind everyone to make sure you're no matter where you are, even after you graduate. Yes, okay, that's the end, and then my last thing is once we're done here, if you could help, or just take your name tag, take it to the end over there, just try to stack it, kind of nice, we're not done yet, so don't do it yet. Okay, we need a motion to approve.
I move to approve minutes of October. Second, Ludeman.
Made by, yeah, second, Lukeman, all in favor? Opposed, other, great. Motion made by Dell, second, Lukeman, all in favor.
Thank you guys for the meeting.
Don't forget your.